Stranger Things Season 4 Part 1 just dropped, and I gotta tell you, I absolutely hated the fact that we only got 7 episodes because I really liked it. This season so far has been pretty rad. I mean, it was nice getting a heavy dose of synthwave, 80s pop culture references, and blatant product placement. And because of my ever-growing fascination for the new villain, I wanted to quickly give you a full comprehensive guide to Vecna, giving you my analysis on the season, pointing out some things that you may have missed, and giving you some heavily thought out predictions with tangible evidence that support my moderately outlandish claims. Should I give a spoiler warning? I feel like I should give a spoiler warning. Yeah, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning. Here's this big old bag of spoilers for you. Okay, great. Now that the cool kids are here, let's begin. Let's start this Vecna video by first talking about Vecna, or Number 1, or Henry Creel. Vecna was the first of Dr. Brenner's test subjects at the Hawkins facility. A week after slipping into a coma, he was declared dead and Hawkins took him in. After Henry committed the eyeball murders in 1959, his father Victor Creel was locked away at Penhurst Asylum, as Victor over here was arrested for the murder of Henry's mother and his sister. And for the next 30 years, he was successful at, letting his dad take the blame. Eddie's uncle Wayne, along with the rest of the town, thought Victor Creel supposedly lost his mind and killed his entire family and removed their eyeballs. Vecna tells Eleven a whole bunch of stuff about Dr. Brenner, and I feel like Vecna really didn't have to make anything up. It's possible that Brenner was trying to have Eleven killed, or at least put in a position where she had to fight. The moment she was able to semi-aggressively push Number 2 out of the circle is the moment where Brenner got flashbacks to Number 1. Eleven was also disobedient like Number 1, like when she refused to respond when Brenner asked the group questions and everyone was like, "Okay, Papa," and she just was like, "Nope." Eleven could have suffered the same fate as Number 1, as Number 1's powers became subdued by an implant ironically named Soteria, aka deliverance, meaning being set free. The opposite of what the implant was doing to him. It was simply when everyone died and Eleven was the only one left that Dr. Brenner saw Eleven as his last hope. Eleven refused to join Number 1 after he slaughtered everyone at the Hawkins lab. So she fights him and then banishes him to the Upside Down. It was during this moment that Number 1 became Vecna. So ever since he was a kid, Vecna's always had this ability to be somewhat omnipotent, where he can observe people in real time and even access their minds in order to see what they've done in the past. Dustin is right when he theorizes that during each kill, Vecna is making a powerful psychic connection with his victim. A connection powerful enough to rip a hole in the fabric of time and space, creating the same kind of hole that the quote-unquote commies made, as well as the one in the Hawkins lab, or the one that Eleven used to banish Number 1 to the Upside Down in the first place. Or were those the same thing? Vecna is able to form such a powerful connection by using the victim's past trauma to taunt them, getting the victim to the point where they have headaches and nosebleeds like Eleven when she uses her powers, using their memory of something that made them sad or angry, essentially against them, going after his victims like how he went after his father, making Victor relive the memory of ordering a shelling on a place where he suspected German troops to be, but Victor was wrong and his decision resulted in the death of an infant child. So he's like, "Look at that, I'm gonna torture you with this." Patrick came to basketball practice one day with a black eye. I don't exactly know what that's about, but he's got some baggage there. Fred was in an accident that he blames himself for. Max blames herself for the death of her brother Billy, which also explains why she turned into such a recluse at the beginning of this season. And now Nancy is trapped in the Upside Down with Vecna, and he's using her past trauma with Barb against her. I think Nancy is the only one to skip this, but each victim experiences 4 main side effects of being haunted by Vecna. Right up until their death, they experience trauma, terrible nightmares, subsequently trouble sleeping, and of course headaches. Headaches! Oh, by the way, speaking of nightmares, Vecna is basically the Freddy Krueger of Stranger Things. For those of you who are ignorant AF, Freddy Krueger is from this horror movie called Nightmare on Elm Street. It was made in the 80s, specifically 1984, and this is also known as the movie that haunted most of my childhood. Both Freddy and Vecna have a face and body that reveals flesh. Freddy got burned to death, and Vecna got burned by red lightning. Both have a hand with razor-sharp claws on it, almost as powerful as Murray's fingers.
My fingers are like arrows.
Both kill people in their dreams, both seem to be more powerful when their victim is afraid. Dustin even claims that Vecna's house in the Upside Down is the equivalent of Freddy Krueger's boiler room. Chrissy getting pulled to the ceiling and then Eddie dropping to the floor in sheer horror is almost a shot-for-shot remake of this moment from Nightmare on Elm Street, to which the boyfriend in this scene had to go on the run just like Eddie. The way to escape Freddy is also the same kind of way that you would escape Vecna. When Victor was in the flashback thinking that he was about to get killed, he heard the song Dream a Little Dream of Me by Doris Day. He followed the voice and was able to escape. This also caused Henry to slip into a coma. During Eleven's rehabilitation, Brenner plays a song from Nicolas de la Roque's opera, Nina, using music about someone remembering the truth of their past in order to get someone to remember the truth of their past. Dr. Brenner explains to Eleven that she doesn't remember her past because she doesn't want to, because our brains have a defense mechanism in place to protect us from bad memories. You know, trauma. So the only way that Eleven could regain her powers is by remembering the past, and the only way Max was able to escape Vecna was remembering her past with Lucas, Eleven, Mike, and even Dustin. When Eleven calls herself a monster, Brenner claims that people are not so easily defined. Only by facing ourselves, the good and the bad, can we become whole. The complete opposite of Vecna's approach, as he defines people only by their mistakes. At the beginning of season 4, Dustin, Mike, Erica, and the rest of the Hellfire crew decide to stand their ground and fight Vecna, as they all start chanting "to the death." Eddie claims that there's no shame in running, and that they shouldn't try to be heroes, not today. When Eddie said this, I couldn't help but think of how they used Peter Gabriel's version of David Bowie's song Heroes about twice in the show so far, at the end of season 1 episode 3 and at the end of the season 3 finale. The number 69 also appears twice in season 4 so far. It's seen on the scoreboard at the end of the basketball game and at Jason's party house. See, this is why my channel is essential when you're watching things, guys. Anyway, the most well-known lyric in this song is "We can be heroes just for one day," the complete inverse of what Eddie said. The decision the Hellfire Club had to make reminded me of the opener of season 1, when the OG crew all encountered the Demogorgon. They were forced to make a tough choice: fireball or cast a protection spell. Will chose violence as he made a fireball, seeing if he could roll a 13 or higher. This scene comes full circle as it unites everyone in the group to go looking for Will, as they all remembered that Will put himself in danger to protect the party. So I have a strong feeling that the whole chanting "to the death" is gonna come back full circle in season 4 part 2, as the entire crew is gonna have to unite to defeat Vecna. Vecna becomes more powerful with every kill. It seemed like Vecna's ritual of him claiming a life had a timeline of like 6 days. 6 days is roughly the same amount of time that Vecna spent in a coma, and each victim gets claimed 24 hours after their first vision. Vecna claimed that the world he lived in was cruel and oppressive and dictated by made-up rules determined by seconds, minutes, days, etc. But for someone who's so against the mundane routine of life, his killings are very timed and repetitive. Vecna wanted to combat the supposed unnatural structure of our world by feeding on the weak and bringing balance and order to an unstable ecosystem. Vecna is forming a gate to the Upside Down at every single murder site, like the Watergate where Patrick died and that one portal where Chrissy died, you know, the one that Steve and Nancy got stuck at. Dr. Owens tells Eleven that a war is coming to Hawkins, and Dustin was probably correct as usual when he said that Vecna is the equivalent of like a 5-star general, as Vecna is most likely working for the Mind Flayer. I feel like number 1's fascination with the Black Widow spiders is hinting at his future relationship with the Mind Flayer. As you probably know by now, the Mind Flayer kind of just looks like a gigantic spider. Vecna could have probably formed a connection with the Mind Flayer when he got banished to the Upside Down, as he already considered spider-looking things to be deeply misunderstood creatures like himself. He even considered Black Widow spiders to be the gods of our world, the same way the Mind Flayer appears to be the god of the Upside Down, meaning all of these portals are going to open an army for all of the Demogorgons, Tendrils, the Flayed, and so on. But most importantly, Tendrils. You can definitely expect a part 2 to this video, so subscribe so you don't miss it. And thanks for watching!